Well, I think it comes as no surprise to anyone that Al Sharpton is now receiving a demand letter from Nolan Wells' friends. And it's for so many reasons, many of the reasons I'm sure, and I can imagine y'all could think of. The main reason being that he talked about Nolan Wells' friends as if they had already been convicted, as if they were already suspects in this case. And that is a big problem, not only for Al Sharpton, but it was a problem for their now recently retained attorneys. And we're going to get into the information. I'm also going to rewind and show you guys the exact moment when Al Sharpton said some things probably weren't in his best interest. And we're going to hear some contradicting testimony between Al Sharpton and Christine that I think you all will find very interesting. But first, we got to get into this and see what was actually said in this letter by Nolan Wells' friend's attorney. We're going to hear from Edward Paltzik. We're going to hear from Mr. Cox in this as well, Tyler Cox, and find out what's going on. We posted about this over on the Classy News X account. If you guys don't follow us over on X, make sure you do that and find us at Classy News. They said this: breaking, the legal team for Nolan Wells' three friends just sent a formal demand letter to Reverend Al Sharpton warning they are ready to file a civil defamation suit against him. Ooh-wee. Paltzik and Cox say Sharpton made repeated false statements, including in a TMZ interview, implying that Warren, Jax, and Morgan had something to do with Nolan's death. And we're going to get into those testimonies here shortly. Now, they're also calling out Al Sharpton for using Nolan's vigil as a platform to go after the three young men. Al Sharpton has been sued for defamation before, and he lost. No one's surprised at that. This time, the lawyers on the other side helped take down CBS and the New York Times on behalf of Donald Trump. Here's what Tyler Cox and Edward Paltzik had to say. Check this out. Dear Mr. Sharpton, we represent Warren Jackson Morgan. This letter will serve as our only pre-suit demand regarding your defamatory statements about the completely innocent young men. The letter should come as no surprise to you, since you recently welcomed a lawsuit against you boasting at the National Association of Black Journalists convention. But I will say this on the stage, said Al Sharpton. I want them to sue me first. You also stated, I want to depose your son. If you sue, the plaintiffs are deposed. And let's go to civil court, Al Sharpton said. Any kind of court you want to go in, because you can't make this make sense. We're happy to grant your wish. Unless you comply with the demand set forth in the letter, we will immediately be filing suit against you. However, we are pleased that you too welcome the depositions. While we are more than ready for Warren Jackson Morgan to sit for their depositions and tell the truth under oath, we are mostly looking forward to your deposition, Al Sharpton. Smearing the reputation of innocent young men mourning the loss of their friend to score cheap political points will prove far easier than explaining yourself under oath. Indeed, you will find dealing with us to be an altogether different experience than indulging in slanderous rampage applauded by the fawning psychopaths. Oh my God, our sycophants, in the echo chamber of your inner circle. Now, they go on to say this, and this is the most interesting part, I think. They quote and they talk about his defamatory statements. And I'm not going to get into the specific ones they say here because I'm actually going to show it to you guys in the video, but you can imagine what they say. And again, on July 14th, they say he was talking to TMZ. This is the one I want to read for you guys before we get to the video. And he said this. He says, I was, first of all, stunned at the fact that this young man is going out here and he and three friends, he's black, they're white. And a day later, his mother and them start searching for him. No one comes forward. And then they find out after 2 days, they claim his body was washed up, and that they had given his cell phone and his keys to one of the three fellers, or the three friends, saying he didn't want to go back from Horn Island with them. And that, again, is amongst many other things that Al Sharpton said we're going to see here shortly. But this is the most interesting one, and one that, again, I always found strange, and I even criticized as we covered the press conference. They said, you dishonored Nolan by using a visual as a platform to smear his best friends. He says, even worse, you singled them out in front of an entire online audience in attendance for the attending the vigil. Now, he said, you just cannot help yourself. And then they go on to list more and more and more information. Now, before we get into the video, Al Sharpton actually responded to this, to the surprise of Edward Paltic. And here's what Al Sharpton had to say. He says, I welcome the lawsuit, and I will have my attorneys be in touch with theirs to arrange for them to serve me so we can get into court. I convened a prayer vigil on what would have been Nolan's 19th birthday, and 3 of the young men joined the Zoom, and I asked them to come forward. While I did not know their names, so I did not defame them, we have a right and a duty to raise questions that were raised to me by Nolan's parents. From the onset of this case, I publicly stated that I welcome any litigation that would legally require every person that was with Nolan before his death to be forced to answer questions under oath. Litigation requires depositions, discovery, and complete examination of the facts. Interesting. I have been involved in the case for one sole reason, for political reason. I don't think that's what he says. To talk about race, when race isn't necessarily an issue. No, that's not what he said either. He says to help Nolan's parents, Christine and Elmore, find the truth and what happened to their beloved son through a transparent and accountable investigation. If a lawsuit is a catalyst for the truth, then it is welcome, and I will not deter Nan nor or me from continuing to stand with the family in their pursuit of justice. Now, again, Edward was surprised by this, and he even said over on X, he says, well, that was fast. Al Sharpton is already backtracking, and he's hedging as well. He says the whole ball of absurd yarns is unraveling. Moving the goalpost would be an understatement. He says Big Al now ludicrously claims that Warren, Jax, and Morgan, that I did not know their names, so I did not defame them. He also says, so then who exactly was Big Al talking about when he used the following descriptions? 3 friends, he's black, they white. 3 young white male friends. Were any of these guys racist? These 3 young men, the 3 guys, the 3 friends. Perhaps Big Al was really just talking about the 3 amigos, maybe the 3 bears, or was it the 3 musketeers? That is hilarious. Let's actually go to the press conference that took place a month ago. And this is interesting because Al Sharpton said some things that probably weren't the wisest things to say, and you're going to hear them here. And the most interesting thing of all, what Al Sharpton says actually contradicts what Christine said in a later interview we'll get into in a second. Check this out.
What we've been told does not make sense. And being that there is lack of confidence in the local authorities, who have already, in my judgment, seemed to have mishandled where it was going.
I can agree with that.
Because to just immediately, before a week, nothing done wrong, when we hear that this young man was engaged in some kind of argument that was on tape, that his cell phone and keys ended up with one of the people that were there on the island and got away. He was 1 black with 3 young white men.
There it is.
Who happened to end up with his phone, happened to end up with his keys. Then there's just too many questions that they should not be closing the investigation. Now, I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm a little different than some of y'all. I was
You're
built
a lot different.
My nose is out here, my eyes are here, my brain is here, which means some things I could smell before I could see and before I can figure out. This does not smell right.
What is he saying?
So some people are saying, Reverend, are y'all bringing in race? Well, we're not bringing in race, but we're not discounting race either.
All right. So again, there you go. Al Sharpton saying a whole lot about the friends in this instance. But the one thing I want to key in on, and I want y'all to focus on, is this part. If you fast forward to about 9 days ago when Christine was speaking on Sage, you heard Al Sharpton say, oh yes, they had their phone and they didn't tell anybody where the phone was. They didn't tell anybody where the keys were. Well, according to Christine, Al Sharpton is lying. According to Christine and what she says on the stage, Warren told her on the phone that they had his phone. Warren told her on the phone that they had his keys. And this, again, is coming from Christine. I'll let you guys hear it.
Elmore was in bed watching a different movie, and I'm like frantic. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, Nolan is missing. I'm trying to pull up the GPS as I'm talking to him. And at some point, he tells me that, I was like, well, his phone says GPS Life 360, not Snapchat.
Right.
Life 360 says that he's on land. And he was like, well, no, I mean, we have his phone. And I'm like, wait, what?
So again, that is a major contradiction between what Al Sharpton just said, that they didn't know where the phone was, that the phone had to be tracked down, they weren't giving them the phone, and between what Christine is saying here. She said Warren told her they had Nolan's phone, and she pulled out her phone, looked at Life 360 and said, well, it says he's on land. He's like, yeah, we have his phone here. Again, this is going to be interesting as this plays out. I'll be interested from a legal standpoint to see the back and forth between the attorneys here. If a deposition takes place, I think that's going to be the most interesting part of this, because not only will Al Sharpton have to go under oath, but as you just heard, Warren, Jax, and Morgan might even have to say something under oath as well. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments.